It's 9:17 and Brad is not just late for the 9 o'clock meeting, he's late for work. Brad's dress code screams anything but business. He's strutting into the office in a Supreme t-shirt and ripped jeans. And just when it couldn't get any worse, his sneakers are muddy from last weekend's hiking trip. In the meeting, Brad's long-winded explanations drag on and on, forcing everyone to cut him off before the room falls asleep. His technical skills are non-existent. He's got a master's degree, but when it comes to Excel, he's more lost than ever. He can swipe through TikTok but can't find reply all in Outlook. Faced with real problems, Brad fumbles. Without a YouTube tutorial, his only problem-solving experience is pressing X to reload in video games. But the real kicker? Brad is so casual, it hurts. He strolls through the office like it's a coffee shop, high-fiving coworkers and calling the boss dude. Brad is the average Gen Z graduate, and like many Gen Z graduates, Brad will be out of the job within the first few months. In today's episode of the Infographics Show, we'll reveal the shocking reasons why companies are firing Gen Z workers. Supervisors are facing a hiring crisis when it comes to recent graduates, and the news is bad for Gen Z. More and more bosses are refusing to hire a new generation of workers. The situation has gotten so bad that even colleges have gotten in on trying to solve the crisis, with many schools now offering additional courses to specifically prepare students for a professional setting. A recent survey of almost 1,000 business leaders at the forefront of the business, technology, and science sectors revealed that 1 in 6 companies are now hesitant to hire a recent college graduate. The survey asked specific questions about hiring practices, demographics, and reasons for satisfactory or unsatisfactory outcome. While 94% of companies reported hiring recent college graduates, only 25% said those hires were a success. The rest were either unsatisfactory or a total disaster. 3/4 of companies stated that they were outright dissatisfied with their Gen Z hires. But it gets worse. 3/5 of companies reported firing their Gen Z hire within a year. This has left a bad taste in the mouth of the business leaders across industries. The biggest complaint was that college graduates are unprofessional and poorly prepared to work, with many being overwhelmed by challenges in the workplace. Has Gen Z been coddled to the point they are no longer hireable? According to the Society for Human Resource Management, the average hiring success rate is right around 43%. That means that 43 people out of every 100 hired will actually work out long-term for the company. But when you look at the intelligence survey, the situation for Gen Z is even more worrying. 6 out of 10 companies surveyed reported having to fire a Gen Z worker, putting Gen Z hiring success rate significantly lower than the average. Houston, we have a generational problem. And it's bad enough that many Gen Z workers might have trouble landing and keeping jobs because of it. So let's get into the issues behind Gen Z's apparent lack of hireability. A whopping 9 out of 10 companies surveyed reported that Gen Z desperately needed further etiquette training. Across the board, the prognosis is clear. Gen Z does not know how to operate in a professional environment. Good workplace etiquette is key for productivity and harmony. It's about understanding how to navigate professional relationships. This includes knowing when to use formal titles, being aware of sexual harassment policies, and proper communication, both on the phone and online. Gen Z tends to treat its workplace and correspondence like it's a Discord chat room. Memes and emojis are great for Reddit and Instagram, but not so much for your 9 to 5. Imagine losing your job because you responded to an email with a handsome Squidward gif. Knowing how to dress is just as important. Most workplaces go for business casual, a more relaxed version of a more formal attire you might see at a law firm. Business casual can be dressed down to jeans, but only if paired with a nice button-up shirt and nice clean shoes. Wearing graphic t-shirts and dirty sneakers is definitely a no-go. If you're part of Gen Z, you should treat the workplace like you're dressing for a date. You want to make a good impression without being creepy by wearing a full suit. A lack of professionalism was a reason that Gen Zers didn't work out 46% of the time. Other issues included a serious lack of motivation or initiative, with half of all companies surveyed, almost 500, stating that their Gen Z employees needed close supervision and showed little drive to take charge. This might be due to the culture shock Gen Z is experiencing moving from a perpetually online life to a professional workplace. It could also be that Gen Z is the most vocal about how exploitative industries can be. While their online existence may have dulled Gen Z's preparation for a professional setting, it's also increased their awareness of the many pitfalls of modern industry. Gen Z questions things like why cover letters are still a thing, why salary information isn't displayed on a job listing, and not kept secret, and wages overall have not kept pace with either cost of living or the value of industry since the 1970s. Hiring managers may find Gen Z more motivated if the American dream wasn't officially unreachable for most of them because boomers sucked it dry decades ago and left a mess in their wake. But there's still some very legitimate criticism to be made of Gen Z. 39% of surveyed companies stated that Gen Z employees lacked good communication skills, which is ironic for a generation that spends hours screaming into headsets on Call of Duty. When most online lobbies devolve into a shouting blame game with a healthy sprinkling of racism and homophobia, it's easy to see why Gen Z communication skills might be glitching. This ties in with 38% of companies who reported that Gen Z was overly sensitive and struggled with professional feedback. The online world turned every disagreement into a zero-sum ego battle, and now Gen Z treats feedback like a boss just nerfed their favorite weapon. Even more troubling for Gen Z is the fact that 34% of new hires showed bad problem-solving skills, which is odd because video games are supposed to make you better at that. But it turns out real-world problems aren't like following a quest marker in Skyrim, especially when you can't communicate properly. A staggering 30% of employers say Gen Z lacks basic technical skills, struggling with Excel and Word, programs that are as old as their parents. This decline in ability is blamed on access to mobile devices and cloud-based editors like Google Docs, both of which means Gen Z doesn't know how to navigate menus of word processing programs or engage in even simple formatting tasks. Ironically, despite being the first digitally native generation, Gen Z is also showing a dramatic decline in typing skills, thanks to an over-reliance on mobile phones and autocorrect features where the spelling just needs to be in the ballpark. If you think we're making any of this up, Reddit is full of posts of Gen Z not knowing how to use various computer programs or even computers themselves, and the complaints range from around the world, not just making this an American or even Western issue. But it's not entirely Gen Z's fault. Colleges and high schools are increasingly failing to prepare students for the challenges of the modern workplace. Previous generations had mandatory typing and basic computer classes, giving them a solid foundation. But today, many schools have cut these programs, assuming Gen Z's familiarity with tech means that they don't need formal instruction. While Gen Z might be digital natives, much of their knowledge is informal and self-taught, leaving them high and dry. Recently, California made it mandatory for public students to undergo typing classes, much like their parents had to in order to graduate. Gen Z is also suffering from a critical social skills problem, likely fueled by their online lifestyle, where direct human-to-human interaction is rarer than ever before. This is growing into what is increasingly being called a dating crisis, as Gen Z fails to make meaningful romantic connections. Online culture may allow you to play with people all over the world, but real-world interactions still matter. A survey by psychologist Andrew Thomas showed that the feeling of being left out amongst teens grew from 13% in 2018 to 30% in 2022. Gen Z is outright avoiding in-person social interactions. A Center for Disease Control survey showed that teenagers are more risk-averse than ever before, with less rates of smoking, drug use, drinking, physical fighting, and even sex, showing a downward trajectory in all categories since 1990. That might sound like a good thing, but the bad side is that teenagers today are attending fewer in-person gatherings, such as house parties, than ever before. And a whopping 59% of Gen Z males report not having approached a potential partner in person for the last year when the survey was taken. The trend is clear. Gen Z is less social than ever, despite spending most of their lives on social media. And this is making them worse at everything that a professional workplace requires out of them. Despite playing more video games than ever before, something that's proven to improve problem-solving skills and critical thinking skills, Gen Z is actually struggling with these skills in a real-life setting. Skill sets suited for video games are proving to be a poor fit for most professional jobs, though there are industries where Gen Z thrives, reflecting their unique upbringing. The question on every hiring manager's mind is, what do we do now? As the world becomes ever more digital, the hiring crisis is only set to grow. While typing and computer familiarization classes in schools is a great start, it doesn't solve the fundamental problem with Gen Z's lack of social skills, problem-solving abilities, and low personal initiative. The future of industry is extremely uncertain, and this should worry everyone. Now go check out Millennials versus Gen Z. What's the difference? Or click this other video instead.